That sounds like blasphemy.
He's gonna hurt the
I
children.
want that man arrested immediately.
We can't do that, sir. This is America.
Sir, this is a Wendy's drive-thru.
The only thing you'll have to fear is fear itself.
Hard times. The only salvation is to be good. Be good.
We saw a barrage of alien and science fiction films come from Hollywood starting in 1950 with Rocket Ship XM, followed by The Day the Earth Stood Still and then The War of the Worlds in 1953. Godzilla, Reptilian King of the Monsters in 1954. No less than 100 science fiction films came out in the 1950s, many revolving around extraterrestrials and space visitations. There were sci-fi films about spores taking over the planet, threats of nuclear holocaust on Earth, and Martian invaders in all varieties. The Outer Limits even had an episode titled Special Delivery, where the boys in the neighborhood all started growing mushrooms and then disappearing. The theme that seemed to be the most powerful are lizard people. Many of us have seen the Star Trek episode, The Land of the Lost, the miniseries V, Jupiter Rising, etc. Spider-Man's arch nemesis is a lizard man. Comic books for decades have featured reptilian gods and lizard people. If the reptilians are here and hiding from us, they aren't doing a very good job. All reptilian information that involves any details comes from David Icke's book, The Children of the Matrix, which has zero sources other than fantasy books and fairy tales, and his interview with Credo Mutwa, the shaman. The only shaman I've ever heard of whose initiation ceremony didn't involve drugs, but instead the consumption of a gray alien body. Here are some of the quotes from the 6-hour interview. Muero challenged the great chief of the serpent people to a fight, and he cut off the penis of the royal king of the snake people, and that caused a big war. This is the same story as the castration of Shiva in the forest, Osiris from Egypt, and Attis from Phrygia. Next. But a royal Chitauri has got 3 eyes, sir. It's got the yellowish eyes, which glow in an almost ice-like way like jewels, like certain types of yellow jewels, and then they have got an eye in the center of their forehead. Now this eye of the Chitauri is the eye that kills, because it can knock a man down just by the fire that comes out of it. This is the myth of the centaur and the cyclops, the Greek Polyphemus, and there's a fairy tale from Ireland dealing with the battle Lug and Belor of the piercing eye met in the battle. The latter had a destructive eye which was never opened except on the battlefield. Credo also claims he was abducted by aliens. It was there that I also went missing for 4 days in 1959 in one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. My teacher, Elizabeth Moyo, had sent me to get a special herb which only grows on the foothills of those mountains, and as I was looking for this herb when all of a sudden a bright blue mist fell all around me. Lastly, he describes his experience being initiated by eating a gray alien corpse. We went down the hole. We used a broken ladder. There inside the hole we ate small pieces of something. He told me to chew these things as they were quite hard. He said, look, what we shared is something that can only be eaten while you're hiding in a hole. And that thing is the flesh of a god. I said, God? He said, yes. I said, but I am sick now. He said, wait, you'll recover. Mr. Icke, I can't describe to you what happened next. Suddenly you get stark raving, laughing mad. We started laughing. Ha ha ha. It was utterly incredible. What had caused the laughter we do not know, but we laughed for hours, all 3 of us. When I drank the water, my sense of taste was so heightened that I was utterly shaken. Ordinary water from a mountain spring tasted like, I don't know, like what? Like wine, like something out of I don't know where. And then another feeling fell over all of us, as if we were one with the entire universe. When I looked at a tree outside my friend's homestead, it was as if the tree was a multicolored living rainbow. When I looked at the mountains far away, my sense of sight was so intense I could see colors beyond colors. And then, sir, I was very weak, but with a monstrous appetite. I left my friend's homestead and returned to South Africa. Every step of the way, I seemed like a person reborn. And that, my friends, is a psychedelic experience, exactly. Not what happens when you eat the body of an alien, but instead the mushroom, the flesh of the gods. And lastly, I want to address a psyop called Adrenochrome. This is a Hollywood ploy to discredit legitimate pedophilia research and exposure. It's meant to make it appear that anyone who talks about elites and pedophilia can be dismissed as a crackpot Christian lunatic. The idea is that the elites torture children as part of a sacrifice some claim is done to worship the reptilians that need blood sacrifice to shapeshift and take human form. That's one story. The other is that the elites use it to stay youthful or gain immortality. We've already been over the fact that the quest for immortality is a mushroom-centered myth tracing back to Gilgamesh. Now, the drug is real, but nobody takes it for hallucinating or immortality. It was developed for schizophrenia but never took off. If it was any good, it would have shown up on the Grateful Dead parking lot, and it never has. So it's supposed to be extracted during torture from the adrenal glands. But what does come from this area of the brain is DMT. In 1923, H.P. Lovecraft wrote 2 short stories, one about DMT called From Beyond, about a scientist who invented a headset that allowed you to see into other dimensions, and one about a lizard race of people called A Nameless City. These 2 stories were picked up by Hunter Thompson and used in Fear and Loathing. Then A Clockwork Orange backdrop and a few other locations Hollywood put it in subliminally to use it for mind control on gullible and ignorant Christians and conspiracy researchers. The newest conspiracy to hit the Christian scene is that DMT facilitates contact with interdimensional entities. This is the next wave of the MK Ultra alien narrative mind control to be pushed by the intelligence agencies. Don't fall for it is my advice. This is just an extension of the superstition demon beliefs. They're being baited by intel agencies, and now, so are many of the liberal psychedelic users as well, all sucked into the latest New Age religion of alien gods, the latest development in MK Ultra's mind control project. Isn't it odd and a little suspicious how all these conspiracies like Flat Earth, Ancient Aliens, and Giants are all dominated by superstitious Christians? Like I said, I've been at this for 30 years. There was a time when neither of these conspiracies existed. Nobody ever talked about Adrenochrome until about 8 years ago. Nobody really started talking about DMT and interdimensional alien beings and military rituals to bring about sacrifices and torture of children until Alex Jones explained it to Joe Rogan on his show about 5 or 6 years ago.
Everyone who's done a high dose of psychedelic drugs has had this experience. So everyone who's listening to you right now who's done DMT or done 5 grams of psilocybin, they know that this is you have some kind of communication with something else. The question is that something else inside your psyche, or is that something else a chemical doorway? Question. Is there a chemical doorway inside the mind that opens up, and the belief is that when you die, and this is what the afterlife is, that when you die, your brain produces these chemicals. These chemicals open up this doorway, and this is the portal to the next dimension.
I have heard that I have talked to Army generals, commanding generals, major generals, generals, CIA, everybody, and they're all 100%. And I thought it was a psyop before, and then I've researched it. I've talked to hundreds of people now, not on air, but I'm going to make a film on this, who've taken ayahuasca and DMT. I've not taken it, and for obvious reasons, and it's unbelievable because, I mean, they 100% in San Francisco is the main project site, literally have an alien base, and they are literally communicating, and they've got like astronaut level people taking super hardcore levels of drugs and going into meetings with these things and making intergalactic deals. And again, that's what the government believes and says they're doing.
When you say the government, that's a broad stroke. You're painting you're using a broad brush. Like, what do you mean by the government?
Breakaway rogue intelligence agencies.
Okay, so what you're saying is essentially that they're using psychedelic drugs to communicate with interdimensional beings. All right.
Now we hear about this all the time. Rick Strassman wrote a book, DMT, the Spirit Molecule, in 2001. In that book, he introduced the idea of interdimensional entities being seen on DMT by documenting the experiences of some of his subjects who described things like this. However, most people do not, including myself, and there seems to be an agenda here. There's no time or ability to interpret communication. It's purely subjective and happening in the mind. Nick Sand, a psychedelic chemist who first introduced the idea of smoking DMT, openly criticized Strassman for his sloppiness, saying that basically, you get somebody being examined by doctors in white suits and you're out of your body. It's no wonder you think you are on an alien examining table. Strassman got his research grant from the Scottish Rite Masons, as admitted in his book. Another author is currently facilitating experiments on DMT to see if interdimensional entities can be contacted and communicated with at Imperial College, which is a wholly controlled Freemason college. Whether this person knows it or not, he's a product of the MK Ultra Freemason New Age religion mind control program. All of this really boils down to one question. Do you believe there are forces outside ourselves that influence us, or do you believe that we are all spirits and aspects of ourselves which are not contained in our bodies are mainly responsible for guiding our destinies? And this really boils down to one thing. Do you believe that power is outside yourself and your destiny is beyond your control, or do you believe you are the master or mistress of your own destiny and that we create our own reality? And that's really what my book Ancient Psychedelia is all about getting to the bottom of. Personally, I choose the latter. This concludes the presentation titled You Can't Unsee It, Episode 14, Hollywood, Reptilians, and Adrenochrome. For more information on the subject, visit ancientpsychedelia.com and check out the free online version of the book, Ancient Psychedelia, Alien Gods and Mushroom Goddesses. Thanks for watching. One last thing I should mention, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support me in my work, here are several ways you can do that. It does help tremendously, and I really appreciate it.